Hi, David Odell here with Odell Complete Concrete. First day on the job site other than the day I did the estimate on it. But this whole entire driveway is going to come out. We're going to widen it as well. And you can see this driveway has definitely seen better days. Not many, since it was never did well to begin with. Not very many control joints. I'm assuming no rebar reinforcement of any kind. From the looks of these cracks and the space that they have in between the cracks, that tells me no reinforcement. This side yard over here is going to come out all the way down. The raised planter's coming out. And we're going to rebuild that front planter, the ends of it, and turn it into the house. We're going to do concrete all the way through here. The AC is going to stay in place, and we're just going to put some forms around it and leave maybe a 4-inch space, backfill with gravel. There's the pool equipment. That'll stay in place. We'll form out around that. Also on this side of this is actually the garage, the front of the garage we're looking at here, because it's a side entry garage door. Right here at this cut that I'm doing, what that's going to allow me to do is rebuild the end of this planter and return it back to the corner of the house so it doesn't do the full wraparound. So we just used some pre-bag mix, concrete mix. We're going about 6 inches deep concrete. Then on the back of this brick, we'll just roll up the mortar to give it a little more reinforcement and waterproofing. When I broke out those brick planters, I saved the bricks because these are authentic used brick, really old, probably 1930s or so. So I had to salvage some of those bricks so I could match in the ends. Otherwise, it's really hard to find them. And they're expensive too. When you try to get the old bricks like that, they're $3 to $5 a brick. Where you can buy manufactured used for about 30 cents a brick. We have a new operator on the New Holland today. This happens to be Carlos's son doing the demo today. And this ground is in really bad shape. As soon as we opened up the driveway, we realized that the ground is really saturated. So it's an expansive clay that's real wet. And it's hard to demo when they're wet like that too. And the more you roll over them, the more it pumps water to the surface. So the more you run on it, the wetter it gets, in other words. And it's hard to demo because depending on your tractor setup, and that's crucial, you got to have the wide tires, preferably air tires. If you had a hard tire on here that wasn't a wider than the normal, you wouldn't be able to drive forward and scoop up the material. You just bottom out. Tracks are really great for this type of terrain too. That front porch has the cantilever brick bullnose edge and the brick fascia over existing concrete that probably didn't have brick initially. It was just an afterthought. And that fascia brick is setting right on top of the driveway. So it was really tricky getting the concrete removed without disturbing the brick. What I did is I used the breaker attachment and just pounded it out all the way around there, about 6 inches away from the edge. That way I got the majority of the concrete out, and then I was able to slide what was left out from under it. And it still hung on to the face. Going through here, that mow strip is the property line. We're going to be removing that because we won't need it, because we're going to bring the concrete all the way to the outside edge of that mow strip. And those palm trees are in a real bad place. Probably 5-10 years it'll start to lift the entire concrete on this new pour. So because of the ground the way it was and how soft it was, the little track mini skidster was the answer for grading this, because I was able to get that out there because it's only 3,500 pounds and it's spread out on a long track, so it doesn't really damage the subgrade, and you can grade it out pretty nicely. Also, we're going to over excavate, and this was just a call on the field. Right when I seen the dirt, I went, well, we'll just over excavate. We'll throw some base in here, crushed concrete base, and that'll give us something good to pour on. And there's the base material. That's my son Tyler right there setting up that radius form, and that's the recycled plastic 2x4 that we've reused. This is probably about the 15th job I've actually used that same material on. Once we get the elevation set, then we can start to spread the base. We want to get the concrete as close as possible to that property line vinyl fence there, but we don't want to touch the vinyl, because if it ever has to be replaced, a post or whatever it might be, it's much easier to get out in the future if the concrete's not against it. It also allows for a nice area for drainage. A couple notch outs over the existing footings of the post. Right here, we just pulled the string line down because we're going to put a drain system in. I guess the entire backyard doesn't have a drain in it, and the water puddled on this side of the house. So now when the water drains from the backyard and hits this side yard, it'll go right into an area drain, 3-inch pipe we're going to use, and it'll go out. We dug underneath the sidewalk here, cored through the curb face, and now we're running a 3-inch diameter drain. Pretty easy digging. As you can see, we're just using a trenching shovel. No pick until we get to the palm roots, and then we got to start using an axe. when we removed that property line mow strip that we showed a little bit earlier, when we started removing that, it was actually 12 inches deep. So it was actually almost acting as a root barrier. If that hadn't been there, this whole side area would have been packed solid with palm roots. So what I'm going to do when I do the pour back here, I'm going to leave that thickened edge 1 foot deep along those palms. And that way it'll act as a root barrier again to some degree, and get a little more life out of this before the palms destroy it. We only have 2 drains in here, 2 locations. Well, actually there's a third behind the AC near the pool equipment in case that area fills with water. Since we're forming it out, the water can go into an area drain there as well, even though it's not encased in concrete. Now on the compaction, we're just putting the dirt in small lifts, putting a lot of water and just hand packing it in there. Now that's my little that's a little 1/2 inch pipe with a high pressure nozzle on it that I can shoot underneath the city sidewalk, and that's how I cleared it out, to get my drain underneath the sidewalk. Now we're back on the driveway again on the setup. After we do this setup, I'll put like a 16 penny nail in between the post and the 2x4. That gives it just enough space so we can wiggle it out after the pour. We've got our base all spread out in here. Now we're just going to give it a good flooding. Let that soak for a few minutes, and then we'll be ready to compact. Now we're setting some screed elevations in the middle. And we're cleaning up the bricks that we salvaged on the left there. We're just cleaning up the mortar off of some of them so we can reuse them. Because the entry of the garage door is perpendicular to the city sidewalk, and we want the water to run from the front porch to the street, it's kind of tricky because it's level across the garage door. So that means you've got to create somewhat of a swell to get the water away from the garage into the street, and that's what we'll do in this case. At the back of city sidewalk, we're going to put some expansion foam, and we'll attach it with 3M spray-on adhesive. Now I'm building the brick return on the planter, because it did do a full wraparound all the way to the garage door. We knocked that portion out, and then we just pushed it back a little. On the plate compactor, we're going to run that 2 times. Once it's all compact, it's time to put some steel reinforcement in there. We're using 3/8 rebar, 20-foot lengths, 2 feet apart in both directions. And we keep them about 4 inches off the edges. I have some new concrete reinforcement I'm going to be utilizing in my future jobs, and what I'm using now is going to be a fiberglass, 20-foot lengths, 3/8 diameter. And I think the only difference between steel and the fiberglass rods mostly is that the fiberglass rods versus the steel, the fiberglass isn't going to change ever. It's not going to rust. It's not going to get hot or cold or freeze. So long term, I'm thinking the fiberglass is going to be better. You don't have to worry about any kind of rust on the steel. And you can see on this side yard, I am going to leave that thickened edge there, and that was really from the existing mow strip that was really deep along there to begin with. So I'll just put it back just as deep as it was before. We've already moved the brick planter back on both ends of the garage. There's the box outs around the pool equipment, and there is a drain in that area just in case some water gets in there. So this is pour day, early morning. The ground's wet. Tools are out. Expansion foam's on. The red chalk line represents top of concrete. There's that brick that's just hanging off of the porch there. Then we got to slip some new concrete under it. Put expansion foam around this little pop out in the garage floor as well, just so those cracks wouldn't transfer through. And also the garage floor may be coming out in the near future, so that'll make it easier to remove without damaging the new driveway. We did a little downspout adapter because that downspout's going to get moved over and dropped into that receptacle there, because the new gate is coming out to the front of the house, plus a new property line vinyl fence extending to the front of the garage, which gives you a bigger enclosure in your backyard, a little more usable space. Anyway, that about wraps up part 1 of this 2-part series. Make sure you stay tuned for part 2. That's the pour day and saw cutting, a decorative saw cut pattern. Anyway, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned. Bye.